Today's game being broadcast in Spanish. We're available using the SAP button on your television. To the sideline and Scott Kaplan.
Kevin, both of these teams want to run the football. For the Rams, their defensive line, 3 of their 4 starters are out. William Hayes, Michael Brockers, and Robert Quinn all out. Marcel Darius is out on the Bills side.
Michael Thomas will take it off. The game is underway. Away we go in Southern California. He's out to the 22-yard line. And he was brought down on the play by Robert Blanton, a 21-yard return. The Bills won the toss. They deferred. So the Rams are receiving. And the quarterback is Case Keenum. Case Keenum in his 5th year out of Houston. Rich, over the last 13 games, he is 10-3.
Yeah, and he's taking care of the football, Kevin. And he can create when things break down around him. He's a rhythm passer with good anticipation. The key for him today, he has to have his head on a swivel versus all these blitzes from Rex Ryan in this Buffalo defense.
Bills open up with 4 in their secondary. It's Keenum with the 1st and 10, and he goes quickly outside. Tavon Austin is there. The hit on the play was made by Darby. It is a gain of 4. The Los Angeles offense on the line. Highly drafted Greg Robinson, the left tackle, has been struggling. And they've got to open holes. That line does today for Todd Gurley. In fact, Rich, that has been the big story in Los Angeles with the problems with their offense, that Gurley has not been able to run.
Kevin, I really don't think the problems are with Todd Gurley. I think the issues they've had is they have to play better up front, and they have to do a better job not trying to run the ball to all these 8- and 9-man fronts.
Here's Gurley. He takes it up near the 29-yard line. He picks up 4, hit by Brown and Brown, Preston and Zach. And let's now talk about the defense of Buffalo. Marcel Darius is not playing today, hamstring on Friday. Corbin Bryant taking his place in the middle. There is the reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Week in Zach Brown. 18 tackles against the pass. And Stephon Gilmore, Rich thinks he's the best cornerback. Darby has led the team in passes defensed. It is 3rd and 2. Keenum. And goes outside. Gurley. He's got the first down. Breaking 1 tackle, then brought down by Brown. He broke the tackle of Graham. It is a catch and run at 24. Hit by Brown and Alexander. He takes it down to the 47-yard line of Buffalo.
And this is where Gurley has gotten a lot better. I mean, he's just comfortable working as a receiver lined up outside the numbers. Made a couple big catches last week for first downs. He's become better and more comfortable in the protection game, and he's always dangerous in the open field.
Yeah, working a lot after practice to perfect those skills. 1st and 10. Keenum got the blocking outside. That is Austin. Right in front of Ronald Darby. He was covering on the play. 10-yard pickup. Another first down for the Rams to the 37 of Buffalo.
And Kevin, this is what they have to do. They have to throw the football a little bit on first down. They've been so run heavy, and they're always looking for creative ways to get the ball into the hands of Austin.
And Austin has been somewhat disappointing to start this season.
Yeah, the challenge they have, he's such a small receiver. We're talking about a guy that's just 5'8" tall. He gets lost when he gets outside the numbers.
Still just 4 in the secondary. Linebackers covering. Here's Gurley outside. Here is Austin. They want to get him a lot of touches. We just talked about that. Forced out of bounds by Graham. And it is a gain of 5. He'll take it down to the 33-yard line of the Bills.
Well, let's look at the scouting report. The strength of this Rams offense, while they're struggling right now, they have one of the most talented backs in the game in Todd Gurley. The weakness is the passing game. They're currently 30th in passing yards, and right now they don't have a true #1 wide receiver for the Bills, the pass rush. It shouldn't come as a surprise. We know Rex Ryan, 8 sacks the last 2 games, and depth, especially along the defensive line and linebacker, a bit of an issue for the Bills.
Blanton and Coleman have come in as defensive backs for the Bills on that 2nd down and 6. The very slippery Gurley brought down by Blanton. It is a gain of 5. And a player is down with the gain down to the 27-yard line. Another first down for Los Angeles in the game-opening drive. And that is one of their linemen, right guard Cody Wickman, who's replacing the injured starter, Jamon Brown.
Looked like he just got stepped on at right ankle.
There is an injury timeout with 11:54 to go in the first quarter from Los Angeles. Wickman on the right, starting at the right guard, going off under his own power. The former starter, Jamon Brown, is in there now at the right guard. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Louisville. Seventh play of the drive. They've had a 24-yard catch and run by Gurley and a 10-yard pass to Austin on the game-opening drive. Austin's going to line up the receiver in the backfield. It's Trayvon Austin on 1st and 10. Grabbed in the play by Aaron Williams in the secondary. That is an 8-yard gain. They want him to get touches.
And Trayvon Austin's a smart guy, Kevin. He's not gonna leave his wingman. They've got Corey Harkey in there, the tight end / fullback, and he's going to stay right on his tail. And they're always looking for creative ways to get Trayvon Austin the ball. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, you have to be aware of reverses and end arounds and quick screens to Trayvon Austin.
It's a second down and 2 with Keenan getting off to Gurley. 1,000-yard rusher a season ago. Kyle Williams makes the stop. A gain of 4 to the Buffalo 16. Another first down.
And remember now, Marcel Darius not playing inside. He is a true nose tackle. Corbin Bryant's making the start. He's not a true nose tackle. He doesn't have the size that Darius has. I'm not surprised, Kevin, to see the Rams running the ball right down the middle of that Buffalo defense.
You know, Gurley had been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than half his carries, Rich, and he was not getting a chance to get out of the blocks.
And the one thing about the Rams, though, Kevin, they won't abandon the run. They'll stay with it.
Gurley again pulling on the play was Robinson. Zach Brown makes the stop. Gain of 2 down to the 14-yard line. Let's look at the key inactives today. Darius, who had just served a 4-game suspension for violating the league's drug policy, was going to come back this week, but the hamstring Friday in practice. Hayes, Brockers, and Quinn, 3 starters on the line defensively for the Rams out.
What do you think the Bills are going to try and do offensively? Run the ball right at the front of the Rams defense.
Kendricks in motion, the tight end, second down and 8. They're at his feet, and it's incomplete with the coverage by Preston Brown on Gurley. Good penetration right there. 3rd and 8 now coming up for the Rams on the game-opening drive.
Really good pressure there by Lorenzo Alexander, Preston Brown. You'll see a lot of internal pressures. Where you really have to be sharp, Kevin, is in this situation on 3rd down. This is where Rex Ryan spends a lot of his time during the week trying to confuse quarterbacks with all the overloads, the exotics, and some unusual pressures that you haven't seen or prepared for.
6 defensive backs, 3rd and 8.
Block him.
Well, they had Hughes on one side, may have moved, and let's see if they call a false start.
False start, number 76, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Left guard Roger Saffold.
Yeah, it looks like both guards, left guard and right guard, they're both moving. The left guard's going to move first. Keep an eye on the right guard. He moves a little bit as well.
There's a look at Jeff Fisher, who has taken some heat, especially after the opening weekend when they were shut out in Santa Clara by the 49ers 28-0. Since that time, 3 consecutive wins by close margins with the defense winning them.
Well, they're getting it done. They're running the football. They're playing great defense, and they're not turning it over. They're giving themselves a chance to win games late.
Austin in the backfield, 3rd and 13 for Keenan. They go to Austin. Right there to touch him is Stephon Gilmore. And a gain of 5, put him at the 14-yard line of the Bills. And the defense holds. Here comes now a chance for 3 for the Rams with the field goal unit.
Taking the field for the Rams. The kicker, number 4.
Greg Zuerlein has made every field goal and every PAT this season. This will be a 37-yard field goal attempt to begin things for the Rams with the number 32 offense in the league. It's 3-0 Los Angeles on their first drive. A catch and run, a 24 by Gurley on 3rd down big. 9:31 in the first from the Coliseum.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Nissan, innovation that excites. And by Chili's 3 for Me deal. Chillin' since 75.
Well, the Rams coming in at 3-1. Tied for first place in the NFC West. 3 consecutive wins and 2 in a row on the road for Los Angeles.
You know, when you watch the tape, Kevin, they play hard, really on both sides of the ball. This is a physical football team that Jeff Fisher has assembled. Talked about the defense. Offensively, they will stay after the running game. You know, they have a couple negative runs, a couple, runs that just get back to the line of scrimmage. That won't discourage Rob Boris, the offensive coordinator.
Is the Zerline kickoff. Brandon Tate, he'll bring it out, clean down waivers in early September as he weaves his way and brought down on the play by Forrest. Josh Forrest makes the stop. 27-yard return. Here is a look at Tyrod Taylor, who had a 27-39 performance last week against the New England Patriots.
And I really think he plays his best when he's on the move outside the pocket. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's a dual threat, as evidenced by the fact that he rushed for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns last season for the Bills.
Rams in base. Fullback is Felton. First and 10, LeSean McCoy. Felton with the block, and there goes McCoy into the secondary, brought down by McDonald. 15-yard burst. A good way to start for the Bills to their own 39.
Well, this is a good-looking run. You see the fullback, and then the back is just going to follow him on the other side. They're going to attack these smaller linebackers of the Rams. And Mark Barron's a former safety. He gets blown off the ball by Felton, and before you know it, LeSean McCoy is up on the safety, T.J. McDonald.
Taylor was not expecting the snap. It was first and 10. Running for his life and down at the 19-yard line. Ogletree chased him down on the snap from Eric Wood, the center, too early. And he was late.
Well, this is amazing. I don't know if he was just confused. He lines up behind the guard, Richie Incognito. Here's the center. And you watch him, he's going to raise his right foot like he wants the ball. I don't know if he realizes that he's not behind the center.
Great
Eric Wood.
Look at this.
I mean, this is incredible. I mean, I've done some dumb things in my life, Kevin, but I don't know if I've ever done that.
That was amazing. Second down, 28. Pistol. McCoy. Lead block there by Mills, and Ogletree brings him down along with McDonald in the secondary as he wheels his way to the 30 on a gain of 9. The Buffalo offense, they got to watch out for the penalties from two-time Pro Bowler Richie Incognito. That is a concern coming into this week after last week. And LeSean McCoy, terrific top 10 rusher in the NFL, had 70 yards against New England, had 110 on the ground against the Cardinals. 2 straight Buffalo wins. Now 3rd and 19. Rich, they need their own 49. How many 3rd and 19 plays are in the book?
Not a lot.
Glenn the block, McCoy the block, and there goes Tyrod Taylor. Oh, shifting gears, he breaks the ankles of one oncoming defender and wheels his way for a first down to the 48-yard line of the Rams. A 22-yard run by Tyrod Taylor on 3rd and 19.
And you have to be disciplined with your rush lanes, and you play this man-to-man coverage. Tyrod Taylor's a smart quarterback. He knows that the backs of the defenders are turned. He's got a lot of room, and he's a terrific runner in the open field.
Looked like Troy Taylor missed that tackle as he was faked one way, and his ankles break. Good move. 6.5 to go. We've got a 37-yard field goal on the opening drive by the Rams. New life for the Bills. 1st and 10, 48 of LA. Tight end delivery is there. Flag has been thrown. They go to McCoy. And he dances his way into the grasp of Maurice Alexander with the gain of 8. And he's down to about the 40. We talked about the flag with Walt Coleman.
Illegal shift, 2 men moving and not resetting. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
All right, now the defense. Aaron Donald is in the middle. Westbrooks takes the place of Hayes. Sims takes the place of Robert Quinn. One of the better linebackers in the NFC is Alec Ogletree. He was a high draft pick. Mark Barron is a hybrid safety linebacker. And Rich, after your tape study, you think Tremaine Johnson the best in the secondary?
No question, Kevin. He is their best cover corner.
Pistol on 1st and 15, McCoy. Hit once by Ogletree. Chased by Barron. Out of bounds, banged by E.J. Gaines. Working his way to the sideline, picks up 2, and he gets up to the 49. In your scouting report, on the Bills offense against the Rams D?
Well, the strength of the Bills offense, the running game with both LeSean McCoy and Tyrod Taylor. The weakness, the passing game. They're currently 31st. They really missed the deep threat of Sammy Watkins on the other side of the ball. The Rams defense, their defensive line is a strength. They're deep at that position, although they're without Quinn Brockers and Hayes. The secondary, they're a bit thin at corner opposite Tremaine Johnson.
Gillislee is in, 2nd and 13. Gillislee a block. And that goes to Clay as he's surrounded by white jerseys, but it gets down to the 39. Joyner, Ogletree there. It is a 12-yard gain to the sideline, and Scott Kaplan.
Kevin, LeSean McCoy already getting a lot of work. I spoke to him before the game. He was coming off the field after a pregame warm-up. He was sweating profusely. I asked him how he was. He said he was going in to take IVs so that he could keep his hydration during this game.
Felton is in. Gillislee there, 3rd and 1. Felton, he pile drives his way away with the lead block, and he takes it down inside the 35. He makes the 33 on 3rd and 1. He picks up 6 and a first down. McDonald the stop.
Kevin, I talked about in my scouting report the strength of this Rams defense, their defensive line. They're 8 deep at this position, and they're going to be tested. 3 of their starters are out today, and that really affects their ability to rotate and keep bodies fresh. No Quinn, Brockers, and Hayes. Not surprised to see Buffalo running the ball at the middle of that Rams defense.
8th play of the drive. Taylor, it was tipped. And they were going for Woods. And coming in was Ethan Westbrooks. Right in his grill. Tremaine Johnson was covering downfield. Be the first to know your team's news with the CBS Sports app. Get instant updates, alert, expert analysis, highlights, and more. Download the CBS Sports app today. 2nd and 10. Rex Ryan as a Bills coach, 10 and 10 overall. And they're 2 and 2 for the 5th consecutive year. 2nd and 10. Taylor, he's got the wide open tight end Clay, untouched inside the 5, 1st and goal. McDonald brings him down. And Clay, coming off a nice 5 reception game against the Patriots, picks up 29, 1st and goal at the 3.
And in talking to the Bills last night, they really liked their matchup of Charles Clay against both of these safeties for the Rams. They're more box players, run support players than they are cover safeties. Not surprised to see them work in the middle of the field with their tight end, Charles Clay.
They pay him a lot of money. They're expecting more. It's been a little talk around the Buffalo area, but a nice catch there, and he's continuing what he did last week.
And remember, Kevin, a couple weeks back, they did have that coordinator change with Greg Roman out. Anthony Lynn, the running backs coach, now calling plays for the Bills.
1st and goal at the 4. McCoy was back there, and Taylor to the back of the end zone. Caught, but was he inbounds? Woods, Ogletree, and the discussion, it is...
No, I don't think he got it. I think he gets the 1 foot in. He's not able to get the other foot in before his body hits the end line. Good call by the officials.
Woods had a big game against New England with 7 catches a week ago. Let's see it again, though.
Oh, what a great camera shot. You got,
terrific.
First of all, you got 2 players in the same spot. I know that's not by design, but just keep an eye on the left foot. I don't think either one, maybe the right foot gets in, but he doesn't get both of them in. Just run out of space. That took way too long to develop.
That's textbook 101 camera work. 2nd goal at the 4. McCoy hit by a couple, including Forrest. Big wall right there. Alexander had a hand. There's no gain on the play. They stay at the Ram 4.
I really think the key for the Rams defense versus a back like LeSean McCoy, you've got to be able to game tackle him. You've got to get a number of hats to the football. You can't allow him to cut it back and reverse field. It's really going to be important for them to confine the space around McCoy when he gets the ball, because he usually makes the first defender miss.
Top of your screen, Justin Hunter, first snap right here. He's tall, and he can leap. 3rd and goal at the 4. Taylor looking for him. Oh, he's elusive. Caught for a touchdown, Hunter. They beat Gaines' 4-yard touchdown pass. How about that?
And Kevin, you mentioned it, Justin Hunter, he's 6'4", and trying to get some taller bodies and throw the ball in this part of the field. He comes off like he's going to block, and now he just does a nice job keeping himself alive in the back of the end zone. E.J. Gaines never feels him slide in behind.
Tyrod didn't know if he had kept his feet in. Indeed he did. He was signed to fill the roster spot opened up by Sammy Watkins, going on IR, inactive last week. Former second-round pick by Tennessee, cut in September by the Titans. He had one game with the Dolphins, cut there, and signed by Buffalo. Some good personnel work there. Terrific throw. How about the elusiveness of Tyrod Taylor? They are going to review it. They review every score and every turnover. Let's see it again. Hunter in the back. Stayed off the chalk. Brought it down. Both feet down. That is 6. They review the 4-yard pass to Hunter.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Touchdown.
Justin Hunter. He's been somewhat of a disappointment. It's interesting, though. Hunter got that pass from Taylor. One of Hunter's cousins was one of Taylor's receivers in college at Virginia Tech. And they connect again.
Said put a good word in for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Tell him to throw it to me down in the red zone once in a while, would you?
Well, there's some big plays on that Buffalo drive. McCoy had a run of 15. Taylor had a run of 22. And Clay had a reception of 29. Extra point here by Carpenter. And it is 7-3 Buffalo. They've gotten the lead on the road. A 4-yard touchdown pass. Tyrod Taylor, Justin Hunter, and the Bills on top 2-22 in the first.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Bud Light. Beer with your team on it. And by T-Mobile. Ditch your carrier and switch to the Un-Carrier.
Rich, in the victory last week over New England, 3rd down, 7 of 15 the Bills were on that drive, 3 of 3 on 3rd down.
Yeah, it was a problem for them, Kevin, the first couple of weeks. They struggled converting in 3rd down situations. They've done a much better job on the earlier downs, keeping themselves in manageable situations on 3rd down.
Here's the kickoff after the 4-yard touchdown pass. Farrell Cooper, who is a rookie making his NFL debut today after an injury to his shoulder in the preseason. He'll leave it in the end zone out to the 25-yard line with the touchback. It'll be 1st and 10. Thursday, your weekend starts here when the Denver Broncos take on the San Diego Chargers. Thursday night football on CBS and NFL Network. There's a look at Jeff Fisher.
George spending some time with him on Friday. They had a spirited practice. The tempo, especially from their defense, is as good as I've seen all season long. Guys flying around making plays on Friday.
Both teams begin this game with 12-play scoring drives. Here's a 1st and 10, heavy pressure, and almost picked off on the play by Hughes. They were looking downfield for Bricks. There's a flag at the 13.
Personal foul, rubbing the passer, number 92, defense. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
That's Ohio State rookie Adolphus Washington.
Well, anytime you strike the face or the face mask or the helmet of a quarterback, they're going to throw that flag every time. You have to be able to pull off and lower the strike zone.
Rams won here against Seattle 9-3. They won at Tampa Bay 37-32. Won last week at Arizona 17-13. 3 straight wins. 1st and 10. It's Gurley. Big pile there. Not a whole lot. Got him out to the 42-yard line. Hughes and Preston Brown. Gain of 3. 43. People affected by severe weather and other disasters need help now. To support those impacted by Hurricane Matthew, text Matthew to 90999. Each text is a $10 gift to American Red Cross Hurricane Relief. 2nd and 8. They won those 3 games, the Rams did, by a total of 15 points. 2nd and 8. Case Keenum. And that is grabbed on the play by Britt, who takes it into the grasp of Graham. A catch and run to the 30, 28-yard pickup. And the Los Angeles Rams first down.
This is a really nice job by Kenny Britt. You're going to see it from the end zone. He's going to be coming from your right. Couldn't freeze it right there. Just look how he stops. He's going to slow down and give the quarterback a chance. Watch him stop right here. He stops so that Case Keenum has the ability to throw the ball back inside to his receiver on the crossing route. Good adjustment by Kenny Britt.
Case Keenum with the 1st and 10, and he's devoured. Preston, no, make it the rookie, Adolphus Washington. First career sack, and what a big one. Throwing him for a loss of 9, back to the Buffalo 39.
Here he is right there, Washington. He's still mad, Kevin, about that personal foul penalty. Watch this sack. He about runs him over in the pocket. Rex Ryan is really excited about Adolphus Washington. They've had a really good draft class, and they got all those guys healthy and back on the field. You're going to see some really talented players.
Washington was a 3-year starter for the Buckeyes. 2nd and 19. Gurley running, he fumbled the ball, and Kendricks, I think the tight end, 88, jumped on it, but it still looks like it's loose. And the Bills have gotten it. Graham coming up with it. And a turnover by the Rams. And a fumble by Gurley. And Corey Graham ends the first quarter by vacuuming it in. LeSean McCoy jarred it free for the Bills. With some of the numbers right there, 2 long scoring drives by each team, but a 4-yard touchdown pass by the Bills and quarterback Tyrod Taylor. The giveaway takeaway has been good, Rich, for both teams, especially Buffalo.
Yeah, they're +7 now, Kevin. You look at the sacks, 8 the last 2 weeks, the pressure they're getting on the quarterback, and they do a terrific job working on ball extraction, getting the ball on the ground.
Rams in the nickel. It's a 1st and 10. There goes the flag. It's off to Clay. Bobbled it. Incomplete. Incomplete pass. Flag is at the 41.
A number of pre-snap penalties from both of these
Offside,
offenses.
number 96, defense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Undrafted 2nd-year player Matt Longacre. Well, see what everyone's laughing about. Kevin Can Wait is TV's #1 new comedy. Kevin James stars tomorrow after The Big Bang Theory. Only CBS. 1st and 5. Pistol at McCoy. Felton the block. He's a sledgehammer, and he opens the door, and he's off to the races. There he goes, LeSean McCoy, and tackled from behind with the terrific effort by E.J. Gaines, a 53-yard sprint, galloping to the 5 of Los Angeles.
Yeah, these are designed runs with that fullback leading, and the patience and the vision of a back like LeSean McCoy. And once he gets up on the 2nd level, you really get a feel for his speed and cutting ability. He can easily make a defender miss. Boy, they are really running the ball well between the tackles.
Gillislee is in. 1st and goal. The pitch. Gillislee, Felton with the block, and an easy 6 as he walks in for the touchdown. 5-yard touchdown run. 2 consecutive scores for the Bills, who up their lead to 10. 13-3 over LA.
Well, the Bills offense, they give you a lot to prepare for. You'll see the wildcat, the option, reverses, gadgets, unbalanced lines. As a defense, you have to be alert. You have to have your head on a swivel. Designed option, and really, Terrell Pryor knows he's going to pitch the ball, but he does a good job forcing the end man on the line of scrimmage to bite. And once they outflank the defense, Gillislee is gone.
He didn't make his first carry this season until week 3. Had a 16-yard run out of the Wildcat against the Patriots last week. Here's the extra point, and it was blocked It was blocked, and Carpenter is now missed 2 on PATs this season.
Yeah, really, Kevin, since the start of last year, he's missed 8 extra points, which is the most in football. Not a great snap. The holder's got to reach for it a little bit. It looks like he rushes it, and he actually gets blocked.
It was blocked on the play by Cam Thomas, I think. With NFL Game Pass, watch the games you miss with condensed games in 45 minutes or the full broadcast versions. Start a free trial today at NFL.com/Game Pass. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, Scott Kaplan on the sideline. A 53-yard run by McCoy sets up a 5-yard touchdown run by Gillislee.
And Kevin, the Rams have to tighten their screws defensively with their run defense. The Bills have already rushed for 112 yards here in the first half.
Bills have won 2 consecutive games over Super Bowl contenders. 2 of the final 4 from a year ago. On the road in LA today, Pharoh Cooper out of South Carolina. NFL debut. And he goes headfirst into the 20-yard line. With McCray, among others, making the stop. 23-yard return. That's a look at the backup running back, Mike Gillislee, out of Florida. Down by 10. Rich, only 2 teams average fewer passing yards, and 3 have fewer touchdown passes than this Los Angeles offense.
Yeah, they're really not built to play from behind, Kevin. Their defense has been playing so well the first month of the season. It allows them to stay patient with the running game. The problem is if you fall behind 2 or 3 scores in a game, then they're forced to throw it a little bit more, and that's not what they want to do.
It's 1st and 10, 4 in the secondary. This is Gurley, and that was the Wildcat as he is taking it for a gain of 6. Kyle Williams, the terrific 4-time Pro Bowler, makes the stop. He's out to the 27.
I really like Todd Gurley. I know he's frustrated, Kevin. The numbers simply aren't there, but he's a bell cow back who really doesn't need to come off the field in any situation. He can do it all. He can pick up the tough yards between the tackles. He's also has enough speed to break free into open space and get around the edge of a defense.
There's a 2nd down and long, 3, Gurley again. Nice stop right there by Zach Brown. 18 tackles a week ago, gain of 2 right there for Gurley, and these are some numbers with him last year in this.
Well, I think there's reasons why they're struggling a little bit running the football, and you look at, questions, is it a sophomore slump? I don't believe so. Certainly the numbers would indicate that, but when you really study the tape, Kevin, there's a couple things that bother me. A number of times they haven't blocked people, haven't blocked the end men on the line of scrimmage. They've turned them loose in the hole. And too often, as I studied the Rams on tape, they try and run into these heavy 8- and 9-man fronts where they don't have them all blocked. And that's a problem for a back like Todd Gurley.
3rd and 1 against the Buffalo base. Oh, he's going deep, and he's got Quick. But he overthrows him with the coverage by Aaron Williams. Brian Quick has become their top receiver. It's 4th and 1. The punting unit takes the field.
And that's one that Case Keenum is going to want back when he watches the film tomorrow morning. And you have him this wide open, and you've got good protection. You got to give the receiver a chance to make a play. Quick is clearly behind a defender. Ooh, they hurt.
Johnny Hecker is one of the best punters in pro football. 2-time Pro Bowler. And deep back, they got Brandon Tate. He's looking up into the sun here in Southern California from the 13. Brought down, Michael Thomas. And you know why that worked? The hang time, Rich, was 5.03.
17 fair catches for us, Kevin. That's the most in the league this season.
He is terrific. 57-yarder. Tyrod Taylor and the Bills on top. Early second from LA on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV. Toyota. Let's go places. And by Charles Schwab.
Beautiful day in Southern California. Rex Ryan made a pretty big decision a couple weeks ago, Rich, with his offense.
Yeah, they really cranked up the production, the running game since week 2. You see the numbers. And last year they led the league in rushing. I think one of the reasons Rex made the change from Greg Roman to Anthony Lynn is more of a commitment, more of an emphasis on running the football.
McCoy in, and Taylor's going to go down. Coming through, they had Dominique Easley, who forced a fumble last week. That's the second sack. It's a loss of 7. They'll put him back at the Buffalo 4.
You keep an eye on Donald and Easley inside. Really a double team there. Incognito gets pushed right back into the lap of Tyrod Taylor.
Well, the Bills offense for a third consecutive game getting a fast start. With a fast pace, 2nd and 17. Here comes McCoy. Now they're trying to knock it out. Barron got him from the side. Out of bounds he goes. 4-yard gain. Let's take you to New York with Boomer. Here's James.
Rivers individually having a good year.
He's having a very good year. Here's a 29 touchdown yard strike to Tyrell Williams. Chargers take the lead 7-3 over the Raiders.
Kevin, there's no doubt Boomer misses you.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night.
Boomer, I'll see you tomorrow night for Monday Night Football in Charlotte on Westwood 1. 3rd and 13. Get there safely. 6 in the secondary for the Rams. With a 3rd and 13, standing tall on the screws, caught about the 20, close to a first down. Clay, they've gone to him a lot. Joyner with the stop. He's the nickel corner. Nice catch by Clay, who has been right in the sights with the gain of 12 right there.
I think he's just going to be about a half a yard short. Safeties were so deep they were off the screen.
Clay has caught 3 already.
The penalty really, the sack really hurt them. Excuse me.
So the punt here from Colton Schmidt. Tavon Austin. Well, that's what you do, don't you? Kick it outside the numbers.
Why even give him a chance to get his hands on it and return one?
10-19, first half from Los Angeles. A couple weeks ago, Rams linebacker Alec Ogletree, along with Rams players, cheerleaders, staff, hosted a night of fun, food, and one-on-one, one-of-a-kind auction items. For bid, Rams fans received an exclusive opportunity to meet and greet their favorite players for autographs and photographs, while helping grant wishes for children with the life-threatening medical conditions in LA County. All right, we had just a 3 and out by the Bills after they scored the first 2 times on a 4-yard touchdown pass to Hunter, a 5-yard touchdown run by Gillis Lee from the 35. Rams 1st and 10. With some depth, Tavon Austin working on Stephon Gilmore. He's in with the catch of the 34 of Buffalo. 31-yard strike and a first down.
They're going to get him off a little double move by Tavon Austin. Good patience. He's going to run right by Stephon Gilmore, who has his eyes in the backfield. Terrific throw and catch. Gilmore anticipating help over the top from the safety.
Struggled week 2, Gilmore did, against the Jets. He's had an ankle injury, but he's stiffened over the last couple of weeks with his coverage. Tavon Austin
Gets
with a gain of 31.
He gets to top speed quickly. That may have surprised Stephon Gilmore.
Gurley 1st and 10. And Zach Brown was there. Losing a yard was Gurley. Corbin Bryant was in on the stop as well. Back to the 35 of the Bills on a flag.
Personal foul. Grasped me in the face mask. Number 97, defense. 15 yards. First down.
That is Corbin Bryant. He's been filling in for the suspended and now injured Darius. He filled in last year, remember, call with the injury to Kyle Williams, and has been playing well. We talked to Rex about that last night.
Yeah, the penalties, you see it right there. He won't let go till it's too late.
First and 10. They almost got by Robinson, the left tackle. It goes to Gurley, bobbled the ball. That could be live. They call it incomplete. Darby was right on him and scooped it up.
This is an area, Kevin, where the Rams have really struggled. Excuse me, this part of the field. They rank last in yards in points, 27 points scored in the red zone, which is dead last.
You know there's a cough button over there, don't you?
Oh, where is it? Oh, right there where it says cough. Got my board covering it up. Thanks, Kevin. After 12 years, I didn't realize that.
2nd and 10, Gurley. He spurts through and finally Preston Brown brings him in. I'll tell you what, Rich, they've made a lot of acquisitions. Brown was a draft choice out of Louisville, but they picked up Zach Brown. These two interior linebackers are making a difference with this Buffalo D.
How about Zach Brown last week, Kevin? I mean, he made 18 tackles versus the Patriots. He also recorded a sack and a forced fumble, named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He leads the league right now in tackles. He's a guy that runs sideline to sideline. Both linebackers are playing really well inside for the Bills.
Tavon Austin in the backfield, 3rd and 5. After they go to Austin. And lost his footing, and out of bounds he goes. They hit him hard. And Nikel Roby-Coleman, gain of 1, and they get him down to the 14-yard line.
Just in visiting with Rex Ryan last night, he talked about pre-snap awareness, making sure we know where number 11 is at all times. They're concerned about Tavon Austin because the Rams do a terrific job finding creative ways to get him the ball in space. Tough tackle on the open field.
32-yard field goal try by Greg Zuerlein. He's hit from 37 already today. Rams will come a bit closer. We have 7:46 to play in the first half. 2 red zone possessions, 2 Ram field goals.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. And by Wendy's new grilled chicken sandwich.
Coming up in the Verizon halftime report from our CBS studios in New York, JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Bill Cowers. Scores, news, highlights, and a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network. All coming up on the Verizon halftime report. Well, Rich, you wouldn't have guessed the first 2 wins would come in the last 2 games for the Bills because of the opponents. They were playing Arizona, they were playing New England, and in Foxborough to boot.
Well,
after losing the first 2, they win their last 2.
Well, they played great defensively. Kevin, that's really been the story the last couple of weeks. I mean, taking the football away 5 times against the Cardinals. They went in to Foxborough last week in a division, shut out the Patriots without Tom Brady. And they're really playing with a lot of confidence right now on that side of the ball.
Brandon Tate will get it. Here we are in week 5. We've yet to have a kickoff return for a touchdown this season in the league. And Brandon Tate, some dancing. And the drive up, and a flag is thrown. He's brought down by Bradley Marquez. It is a 26-yard return for Tate. He had a kick return of 45 against the Jets.
Illegal block in the back, number 97 of the return team. 10-yard penalty.
That's 2 penalties now called. Well, Corbin Bryant.
Well, Tyrod Taylor is such a good runner. The Bills specifically designed plays for him to do just that. You see the option here against the Cardinals. They don't play it well. The other thing I like is he won't hesitate to pull the ball down and run when things get cloudy around him. He could score from anywhere on the field. And then the thing I like best, he can find a completion when protection breaks down around him. It was a terrific job keeping the ball in a throwing position and keeping his eyes down the field on the move.
Whoa! All kinds of flags right there. Tyrod was telling us, Rich, that he was working on his footwork this offseason. Wanted to clean up a lot of things about his footwork from last year.
And really, when you study him, when he misses throws,
number 92 defense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
And when he misses throws, Kevin, he told us last night, it's usually footwork related, and that makes sense. Sometimes he gets quick. He needs to just be quiet in the pocket. Look at the encroachment. Yeah, right there.
Jeff Fisher, when talking about Taylor, said he's a healthy Russell Wilson. 1st and 5. It's LeSean McCoy. They had a Miller block over there. Didn't spring him for much, just 2. The tackle was made by LaMarcus Joyner, who plays the nickel on a gain of 2 to the 17.
Kevin, you brought up Russell Wilson, and Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, and Jeff Fisher said that they see similarities between Tyrod Taylor and Russell Wilson. He's shorter in the pocket. Really, they're most dangerous when they're able to extend plays, out of rhythm plays. Rams have to do a good job keeping Tyrod Taylor in the pocket.
2nd down, 3, Taylor. That's bobbled, is it? Good one, could not lasso the pass with a Tremaine Johnson hit.
Well, he's a really good corner. You see how quickly he closes on this and able to wrap up and strip that ball from Goodwin.
Rich, is Taylor a franchise quarterback in your opinion?
Kevin, I think he's a tweener. He's not the biggest quarterback. He's not the most accurate quarterback, but he is a real playmaker. And, they're finding out more and more about him. Last year was his first year as a starter. We need to see what he can do in year 2.
3rd down, 3. That was batted up on the play by Ogletree. It's live. Incomplete. They could not bring it down, but they got in his grill, and Alec Ogletree out of Georgia got right in that passing lane.
Well, this is a problem. They don't even block the end man on the line of scrimmage. Alec Ogletree. It's a dangerous play, especially backed up like that. I don't know if it was LeSean McCoy was not able to get over and make the block quickly enough, didn't recognize it, but that's a real problem in protection.
Colton Schmidt to punt. Tavon Austin is back inside the Ram 40. Keeping it outside the numbers from the 31, Austin. Relayed about the 35. Anderson got in there. Colt Anderson, 5-yard return by Austin, 52-yard punt. 6:35 in the second on CBS. Got a touchdown pass and a touchdown run by the Bills, 2 field goals by the Rams, and 2 red zone possessions. Rich, you were saying something with your study of the Rams offense. With Todd Gurley, you would think this would be a terrific play-action pass team, but you didn't see much of it in watching tape.
No, they should be a great play-action team. They should do more of it on 1st down. Through the first 4 weeks, it's pretty clear what defenses have tried to do to the Rams. They take away Todd Gurley in the running game, and they make Case Keenum beat you throwing the football. And that's what we've seen through the first 4 weeks of the season, and more of it today, Kevin, from the Buffalo Bills, as they crowd the line of scrimmage.
1st and 10, Gurley. Barnes with the block to center. That's one of his best runs of the season. He careens his way for 12 out to the 48 and brought down by Stephon Gilmore on the play in the secondary.
And he runs with such good lean and low pad level. Watch him finish. He's got that great blend of size, speed, and agility that you love at the running back position.
First and 10, Gurley again. This time Kyle Williams sticks him. Gain of about 2 at the 50-yard line. Williams missing a lot of last year, back from major knee surgery. 33 years of age, remaining the anchor on that line in the absence of Darius.
I love watching Kyle Williams. Terrific effort and passion for the game. Every time you study the tape, he always seems like he's getting double-teamed, but he'll never give up. He just keeps coming. He's a ball of energy inside for that Bills defense.
Against the Patriots, the defensive line of the Bills is dominant. 2nd and 8. Malcolm Brown was in the backfield. They got Britt on a slant. And he was brought down by Darby. That's something the Bills did well last week with their passing. They're victimized there. 18-yard pickup to the 32.
This is why you love bigger receivers. Britt, 6'3", 225 pounds, creates separation instantly off the line of scrimmage using those long arms to get off press coverage.
Britt led the Rams in receiving a season ago. And with a thigh injury. 1st and 10. Brown, the running back. Into the Buffalo base. They got by one Brown, and then he was brought down by LeSean McCoy, who's played for 6 teams in his career. No gain on the play. They stay at the Buffalo 31.
And without Benny Cunningham in the lineup, we're going to see more of Todd Gurley on 3rd down. And as a result, even Malcolm Brown, you have to make sure that you spell Todd Gurley once in a while. They really miss Benny Cunningham, who's a terrific 3rd down back for the Rams.
Cunningham has a hamstring and a thigh injury, and active today. 2nd and 10. They go to Austin. Good open field tackle right there by Darby. It is a 5-yard gain, and they'll place him at the 27 of the Bills.
Good look at this tackle by Darby. Not the biggest receiver. You know, you look at Tavon Austin. No receiver this size has ever been drafted in the 1st round. We're talking about a receiver that's 5'8", 175 pounds. He struggles outside the numbers against these bigger corners with the long arms. Much better inside in the slot.
3rd down 5 into the Bills' base. And that's a 1st down reception by Quick, right in front of Gilmore. The gain to the 15, 12-yard pickup on 3rd and 5, 1st down LA.
Well, Brian Quick has really come on the last couple weeks. He's got the size, the length you like at the wide receiver position. Really battled through some injuries his first couple years in the league. Starting to really settle in and find his role in this Los Angeles offense.
So 3rd time they've gotten the red zone, settling for field goals the previous 2 possessions inside the 21st and 10. The Bills were actually in a nickel in that last situation. Nikel Roby-Coleman was in. And the flag. 3-1 Los Angeles, 2-2 Buffalo. 3 consecutive wins for the Rams and 2 straight wins for the Bills.
They had 12 on the field. That's a problem. I always tell them the flag, pre-snap flag comes from the secondary. It's the official's job at the back judge to count the number of defenders on the field.
12 men on the defense with the offense in formation to snap the ball. 5-yard penalty, still 1st down.
Count them.
So this is my favorite part of the job.
I know it is.
That's my favorite tool on my telestrator. Don't get a chance to use it very often, though. That drives you crazy as a coach, especially in this part of the field. It's not always the physical mistakes, it's the mental mistakes of not making a substitution, a communication breakdown.
Austin in the backfield. Bills have 4 in their secondary, 1st and 5. Austin, nice cut, and the chase. And then Darby chases him out of bounds. Inside the 5 at the 3 on a gain of 7. 1st and goal, LA.
Well, you have to have courage to do this, but watch the speed and the subtleness and his ability to really change gears. He's up inside, now you lose him. We talk about the cutback. Look at that move right there. I mean, you just don't see that or feel that as a defensive player. Try and tackle this guy in the open field. Wow.
Well, they are smart to get him in there as we approach the 2-minute warning.
They have to find creative ways to get him the ball in space. He'll line up at wide receiver. He'll line up in the slot. He'll line up in the backfield. They'll direct snap him the football. He's a terrific player for the Rams.
Rich, the Bills defense has been very good in the red zone. In fact, they've held 2 red zone Ram possessions today to 2 field goals, but red zone numbers good for the Bills D so far.
Question: what do you say to a hot new season of 2?
Gurley slicing in, touchdown, Los Angeles. It's been a long time since the Rams have scored in the area. Back when they were in Anaheim was Christmas Eve, the last time that was against the Washington Redskins. They did not score here week 1 against Seattle.
You're going to see the left guard, Roger Saffold, pulled. They got a good double team block at the point. That's a good looking hole for Todd Gurley.
So Gurley gets the touchdown. Extra point by Zerline to tie. At 13 with 1:56 to go in the first half. They shut out the Patriots last week, so they had gone multiple quarters, that Bills D, without allowing a touchdown, but the Rams needed that. They got the 12-yard run by Gurley, an 18-yard pass to Britt, a 12-yard strike to Quick, and Gurley from a yard. And the Rams have scored their last 2 possessions. 10 unanswered.
How you feeling, Los Angeles?
LA Rams a season ago were 7-9. They're 3-1 for the first time since 2006. An unexpected start after their best start in a decade.
He punches in.
Coliseum where we're playing today, 93 years old. Opened in the early 20s. It's held 2 Olympics, countless big games. The first Super Bowl was played here between Green Bay and Kansas City.
Really amazing, just you and I walking through that tunnel, entering the stadium today. The history, just this place just reeks of history and tradition.
Zerline the kickoff. Tate lets it fly over his head out of the end zone and to the 25 with a touchback. A great history here. Opened in 1923 with the 32 and 84 Olympics following. Rams played here the first Super Bowl back in 1967. They had a little over 60,000 here. Rams played here. You can see they moved from Cleveland in 1946. Now the Trojans play here. Speaking of that, Reggie Bush is on this Buffalo team. He is active today. He has not played yet. It's 1st and 10. McCoy is in, and he gets the call from Taylor. And he's chased down and brought down by Mark Barron with a gain of 5 out near the 30-yard line. Call at the 29 of the Bills. Reggie Bush had to vacate all of his accolades. The terrific national championship the school did. He, his Heisman Trophy, violating NCAA rules, 2nd down and 5. Still very painful. That's a reception by Robert Woods. He's out to the 39, and he picks up 9. And a first down.
They've got 3 timeouts. Burning a lot of time here trying to get lined up. Can't take the timeouts to the locker room with you.
Tremaine Johnson made the last tackle. Draw play, McCoy. There was a good block by Mills.
Now you got to take one.
And the run out with the McDonald tackle to the 49. About a 10-yard gain on the play. LeSean McCoy is just carving him up with terrific runs. He's almost at 100 on 8 carries, 94. And a timeout taken by the Bills. They've got 2 left coming up from New York. The Verizon Halftime Report, JB and Company. Scores, highlights, and news, and a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network. Verizon Halftime from our CBS studios.
You know, I enjoyed,
on deck.
excuse me, I enjoyed talking to Anthony Lynn, their offensive coordinator, last night. And he was talking about LeSean McCoy, how he makes a lot of people miss. He said a good back, you know, gets what's blocked, and he said a great back can get you that and more. And he was saying he wins his one-on-ones about 80% of the time. So I asked him, what is an elite back? He said just around or above 80%, according to Anthony Lynn. And that's what I think LeSean McCoy does as well as anyone in football. He makes the first defender miss.
Gillisley is in. 5 in the Rams secondary, 2nd and 1. Bills 2 timeouts. Good block by Gillisley. Woods drops it. And he had room to roam. Coverage on the play by Gaines. 3rd and 1 for Buffalo.
You weren't kidding, Kevin. He had a lot of room to run. And sometimes they get a little antsy and they want to take a quick peek. Look at the open field in front of Robert Woods. Just took a quick peek.
Gillisley remains 3rd and 1.
Look at all these defenders that were on the line of scrimmage.
Mills got the block again, but now they pursue, and that is an open receiver. That time Woods gets down to about the 35. He picks up 17. First down. Now they're in field goal range. Alexander the stop.
He's going to make the first defender miss. This is a tough throw. Give him a better throw, he may get out of bounds.
First and 10. Look out! Ethan Westbrooks, the undrafted player out of West Texas A&M, knocks him down back at about the 41. Third sack by the Rams. D. Loss of 5.
The one thing you can't do in that situation is take the sack. Westbrooks just beats the right tackle, Jordan Mills. See, Mills is just going to beat him around the corner. Kind of late getting out of his stance. And that extra hitch will get you every time. The ball has to come out on time. Good effort there by Westbrooks.
McCoy in, 2nd and 15. One timeout for the Bills. LeSean, boy, that draw has caught that defense all day. Blocked by Woods. Look at the slippery McCoy. Run out of bounds by McDonald. A burst of 17. He's had a 53-yard gain today. He's over 100 yards on the ground. He takes it to the 23 of LA.
Well, I love the call. But look at all the missed tackles. You talk about his ability to make people miss. It's a missed tackle right there. Allows him to get out of bounds and save a timeout.
Gillislee in. Gillislee the block. The dynamic Tyrod Taylor. As dangerous as anybody when he begins to run. He picks up 4 right there. Out of bounds about the 19. Taylor had a run earlier in the game, Rich, of 22.
And Kevin, if I'm coaching Tyrod Taylor in that situation, I say just throw the ball away. You waste so much time running around. Throwing the ball away on first down is not a bad thing.
They got 9 seconds, Rich. What can you do here?
You take a shot at the end zone. You're seeing so much double coverage. You got to like Clay working down the middle against those linebackers.
Gillislee in. 2nd down and 6. Taylor. Nice catch by Clay. Did he hold on? Yes, he did at the 5. Working on gains. 14-yard pickup. Clay's had a big first half. McDonald there too.
We talked about Clay working down the middle of the field versus these linebackers. He just finds a little hole in the coverage between the linebacker and the safety. But Kevin, that wasn't a great usage of their timeouts in that situation and even that drive. They wasted some opportunities. They could have had another shot at the end zone. Tyrod Taylor ran out of bounds rather than throw the ball away on first down. Didn't use the timeout earlier in the drive.
Carpenter has had an extra point blocked. This will be a field goal of 23 yards. It scored on a 4-yard touchdown pass and a 5-yard Gillislee touchdown run to take the lead. Zeros on the clock. 16-13. Buffalo by 3 on a field goal of 23 yards. The Bills in 2nd place in the East and have won 2 straight to the sideline. And Scott Kaplan.
Coach, instant feedback. Offensively, you guys have been able to run through the tackles. Will that continue? And then defensively, that's a struggling offense that's had some success. How do you stop them?
Yeah, no, they have. They've been throwing the ball on the outside. We got to do a better job. Obviously, challenge them. Made a couple mistakes, and they took advantage of it. So we got to do a better job defensively, and then offense just keep grinding out.
Coach, thank you very much. Good luck. Back up to you, Kevin.
The Bills ran for 148 yards on the ground, and what a first half. McCoy 115 rushing yards. Clay 4 catches for 67. Taylor 8 of 13. Keenum is 10 of 14 throwing for the Rams. It's the Bills by 3 at halftime on CBS. Rams getting a 23-yard field goal in that first half, but we saw the field goal by Buffalo to end the first half, which gives them the 3-point lead, 16-13. Let's take a look at Who Are You Lovin', presented by McDonald's. With Felton leading, it was LeSean McCoy racing for 52. What a first half. Over 100 yards on the ground for McCoy. 148 rushing yards overall for the Bills. Back in Los Angeles, this is not the game I don't think that you and I expected to see, especially the first half.
Well, I thought we'd see a lot of running. We're seeing that from both teams, Kevin. Buffalo really focusing in on LeSean McCoy. Terrific first half of football. He probably got an IV at the half as well. 10 carries for 115 yards. The Rams have to do a better job stopping the runs on the early downs.
Let's talk about second half adjustments, Rich. Things you're going to see and look for.
Well, I think if you're the Bills offensively, you have to continue to attack the middle of that Los Angeles defense, not just in the running game, but the passing game as well. Charles Clay already has 4 catches for 67 yards. Buffalo's defense, they need to get a little bit more pressure on Case Keenum. He's been clean for the most part in the first half. For the Rams, I mentioned they have to tighten up their run defense. They've already given up 148 rushing yards to the Bills. And finally, for the Rams offense, they've got to stay after the running game. It'll pay dividends for them in the fourth quarter. Todd Gurley just 48 rushing yards on 12 carries.
The ball blows off the tee. It is not all that windy here in Los Angeles. It's in the high 80s. The temperature has been pleasant, but the ball off the tee there for Zerline. Bills at 2-2. If they win, 3 straight wins for the first time in 5 years. Brandon Tate is deep back. Next to him is Roby Coleman. Who's going to get this one? It's Tate. Bumping into his own blocker. That was Corbin Bryant. 19-yard return. Let's go downstairs to Scott Kaplan.
Kevin, I walked from the locker room to the field with Jeff Fisher, the Rams coach, and he said defensively they've got to tackle better, and that's rather obvious. I said, well, you've got so many guys on the defensive line out. He said, no excuses, got to get the linebackers and the defensive backs involved against the run. And offensively, he says we've got to stay patient, got to put drives together, and ultimately got to score points, Kevin.
All right, Scott, thank you. 3-point lead with that field goal before halftime. Bills 1st and 10. McCoy felt in the block right off the bat, and down he goes. Back to the 18. Hit on the play by Sims, among others. Mark him at the 18-yard line.
Well, you look at the rushing differential. That's the big thing that jumps out at you when you look at the first half stats. 148 rushing yards, 115 of them coming from LeSean McCoy, including that big one of 53. Jeff Fisher mentioned tackling better. He is not an easy tackle in the hole. We talked about him making the first defender miss. We saw a bunch of that in the first half.
It's a 2nd down and 12. Clay, Joyner with the hit. And a gain of 7. Also getting hit there by Ogletree. Out to the 26. McCoy, we mentioned this earlier. He had a hand injury in practice on Friday, and we saw the splint or some kind of Band-Aid on that finger last night.
But he carries the ball in the left hand, so it was a right hand injury, but he's a guy that if you really study him, he carries that ball in the left hand. Not a huge factor, not a huge issue so far in this one.
It's a 3rd and 5. Run the block at the left tackle. Now they're coming at him. And he is short and incomplete. He was looking for Goodwin, but the coverage on the play by E.J. Gaines. And the punt unit will be out there for the Bills.
Well, they're going to bring perimeter pressure, try and force Tyrod Taylor up in the pocket and not allow him to get out on the edge of a defense where he can really hurt you.
Tavon Austin can hurt you. Back here he is, and awaiting the punt from Schmidt.
Schmidt's done a really nice job with his directional punting. He's trying to pin him on this right sideline. This one gets in the middle of the field, though.
And takes a great Buffalo bounce. Keeping it away from Austin is a priority. He's got 3 punt return touchdowns. Schmidt does his job. A 59-yarder there, 13-18 in the 3rd.
And then back here in Los Angeles, let's take a look at the first half possessions. Got off to a good start with the opening drive. on a little sabbatical for 2 series there. They had to fumble a 3 and out, and then they finished strong before the half.
Rams with the 3 consecutive wins with virtually no run game and penalty problems. 3-game win streak equals Fisher's longest with the Rams. 1st and 10. Fake to Gurley, out to Britt. And tackled on the play. They had a couple there, including Williams, who makes the stop at the 30. Darby got a hand on it. He picks up on the play 14 yards to the 30-yard line and a 1st down.
I think that was a called run, that last play, Kevin. And Case Keenum decided, he saw the safety come down late, just decided to throw the slant route on the backside. It's a good answer when Buffalo decides to crowd the line of scrimmage. Can't keep banging your head against the wall trying to hand the ball to Todd Gurley.
1st and 10, Gurley slicing through, breaking tackles into the secondary to the 46. Hit by a couple on the play, including Lorenzo Alexander. It's a 16-yard run. Another 1st down on the heels of a 14-yard pass to Britt.
Well, keep an eye on Roger Saffold and the seal block up on the linebacker, and look at the hole for Todd Gurley. They open and close so quickly, but he makes the defender miss. Well, it starts with a great effort and block up front by Roger Saffold.
The offensive line rating number 27 by Pro Football Focus with the 1st and 10. Falling down Keenum, but he gets it off to Gurley, who is grabbed by Preston Brown near midfield. Gain of 4 on the play. Tuesday, he's not a lawyer, but he knows how to win the case. Michael Weatherly stars in TV's #1 new show, Bull. New episode Tuesday after NCIS, only CBS. George Schweitzer is here in Los Angeles with his family from CBS. President of Marketing, driving the entertainment business. Our boss, Les Moonves, here in Los Angeles as well. 2nd down and 6. Underneath they go for the tight end. First time today to Lance Kendricks. On pace for a career year. First catch there, Rich. Picks up 4. Down to the 47. Brown, Preston Brown makes the stop.
Well, you never go broke taking a profit. I learned that a long time ago when you talk about tight end play. If you don't throw the ball to the tight end at least a half dozen times in a game, you're not doing your job. Have to take advantage of those matchups against the linebackers and safeties in the middle of the field.
Third down, 3, Gurley. Robinson pulls. Oh, he breaks a tackle. He broke a tackle of Stephon Gilmore, and he slithers free, taking it to the 42 of the Bills. Picks up a hard-earned 4 and a 1st down for the Rams.
Look at how they're crowding the line of scrimmage with both linebackers. So what do you do? Toss the ball on the edge, pull a guard, and let Todd Gurley do the rest. Great effort and finish by the 2nd-year back.
Preston Brown finally knocks him out of bounds. Wait till they get Reggie Ragland back and Sean Lawson, this Buffalo D. Guys that could start. First and 10. Malcolm Brown, Preston Brown. Gain of 2 down to the 41-yard line. Bengals and Cowboys from Dallas. Let's go to James and Boomer.
Cincy has run into a buzzsaw.
They really have. His name is Ezekiel Elliott. 60-yard TD run right here. 10 rushes on the day, 128 yards, 2 TDs. Cowboys are throttling the Bengals there, Kevin. I'll see you down in Carolina. Travel safe and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Boomer. We'll look forward to working with you tomorrow night in Charlotte. Elliott is the leading rusher in the NFL.
How about those 2 rookies, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, carrying the load for the Cowboys?
That'll be fun. 2nd down and 8 here for Keenum. Darby jumps on the back of the receiver across the way, and that was Britt, and he picks up 5 to the Bills' 36.
You know, I think Case Keenum's an interesting player, Kevin. We got a chance to visit with him at practice on Friday. You know, he finished his college career as the most productive passer in NCAA history at Houston. You know, he was a guy that only had 1 scholarship coming out of high school and was undrafted. And he's really fought and clawed for every opportunity. And he talked about how he realizes this is a tremendous chance that he has here with the Rams to be a starter, even though they drafted Jared Goff.
Austin in the backfield, 3rd and 3 for Keenum. And he tries to run for the first, and he cannot get the first, and he was brought down on the play by Jerry Hughes. Nice stop. Also getting a hand on him, Lorenzo Alexander. They throw him for a 1-yard loss. 2nd sack. Oh, they say maybe got back to the line of scrimmage. It's 4th down. They're going to try for a Zerline field goal and tie the game. 54-yard try, Zerline. He's hit one from 32 and 37. He has not missed a field goal this year. For the tie, Zerline right down the middle. 8:06 to play in the 3rd. Field goals each way, tying it at 16. A good one from the Coliseum on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. And by Ram Trucks, America's longest lasting pickups.
Santa Monica right there, as you can see, Case Keenum. He's led his teams, whether it's been the Texans or the Rams, Rich, in the last 13 games to a 10-3 record.
Yeah, he's done a really nice job, Kevin, preparing. I think that's the big thing, and talking to Rob Boris and Jeff Fisher, obviously the coaches for the Rams, and he said his preparation. It's just the guy that loves watching film and trying to come into the building and getting better every day at his craft.
Brandon Tate is back there with Felton. Here he goes. It's like maybe Josh Forrest brought him down. Littleton also got a hand on him. 22-yard return. Week 5 continues with Sunday Night Football tonight on NBC and Monday Night Football on ESPN and Westwood One Radio. Then Week 6 kicks off with Thursday Night Football on CBS, NFL Network, and streaming on Twitter. Called Lawson, Sean Shaq Lawson. When they get them back, it's going to be nice for that defense.
These last 4 possessions, three and outs in their last 4 drives. They led the league last year in 3 and outs.
McCoy on 1st and 10, the lead block by Felton. And he runs into a pile right there and brought down by a couple, including Forrest, the rookie out of Kentucky. It's a gain of 2 to the 23.
It's kind of been feast or famine for the Buffalo Bills offense, even going back to last year. I mentioned they led the league in 3 and outs. It was something that really concerned Rex Ryan. It makes your defense be on the field a whole lot more. And even today, it's been a problem these last 4 drives.
Wildcat. And look at the elusive running right here of Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush inactive against New England. Only his 4th carry as a Bill. On that 2nd and long 8, he's played for New Orleans, Miami, Detroit, San Francisco. Now he's a Buffalo Bill.
And what did Rex Ryan tell us last night? He said, you'll recognize the plays I put in this week just for him. You know, he's a player that had great success here. He feels he's got something to prove. They want to get him involved in the game plan here today.
Mark Barron made the stop. McCoy is in. Third down 6. McCoy the block. And out of the reach of the lunging Goodwin with the coverage by Tremaine Johnson.
The accuracy at times can be an issue for Tyrod Taylor.
And the 4th 3 and out in the last 5 possessions for the Bills.
He's got good protection. High percentage of his throws are inside breaking routes. I think it has something to do with his height and his vision. Doesn't throw the ball as well outside the numbers.
Colton Schmidt. Oh, and they rammed into him with Forrest. The flag has been thrown. Schmidt is down. Tavon Austin on the fly. And it will go for naught because Schmidt was rammed into by the rookie Josh Forrest. There's a 52-yard punt and an 18-yard return.
Rubbing the kicker, number 59 of the receiving team. 15 yards, automatic first down.
Bills will keep it.
Well,
Bang.
It's tough sometimes. You're trying to make the decision, do I go for the block or do I pull off? And as it turns out, he runs right into Colton Schmidt. Wow. A big mistake. Extends the drive.
First and 10. Wildcat, McCoy. Incognito pulling. And not much there with the tackle made by E.J. Gaines on a gain of 2. He's up to the 43.
A crucial penalty for the Rams. You look at those penalties have piled up over the years. Most penalized team in football, going all the way back to 2012. Coming into today's game, 36 penalties.
Five in the secondary, fake to McCoy, offering a block. Second and a long 7. Chased by Joyner and throws it away. Rich, it's interesting that Taylor has now had to deal in season with the change in play caller, as you've talked about. What are the issues you think he had to go through to make that transition smooth?
Kevin, never an easy thing, and I think it takes a while to build the chemistry and the trust that you need between the play caller and the quarterback. And keep in mind, Anthony Lynn has never called plays before, so he was put in a difficult situation. He said he didn't sleep the whole first week that he got the job. Chris Palmer, the senior offensive assistant who is beside him, that's really helped him in situational football.
Timeout. He looked at the clock on that 3rd and 7, looking into the nickel secondary of the Rams. 5:38 in the 3rd. We are tied. Screening saves lives in the NFL and the American Cancer Society. Encourage everyone to join in the fight against breast cancer. Learn more about A Crucial Catch Day, October 25th, and find out how you can help make a crucial catch at NFL.com/pink. During today's player introductions, breast cancer survivors and fighters formed a survivor tunnel for the players to run through. Great moment before the game. Buffalo had already just taken a timeout. 3rd and 7. 4 of 8 on 3rd down today. That was such a big factor against the Patriots last week. Into the Los Angeles nickel. Taylor, he's got him! He's got him, and he could not hit him. Just that close to Robert Woods. He has to step up with Watkins on the IR, and they can't convert, and the punting unit is out there. 6 plays punt.
Oh boy, they got the look they wanted. They do a nice job picking it up. Tyrod Taylor has time to step up, and he's got his receiver, Woods, who beats the corner, E.J. Gaines. He just misses him.
You can see the average on the 3 punts by Schmidt today. Had a good day last week in Foxborough. How about Austin? They're down there. The hang time was under 4, so he thought he may be able to go. Blanton was down there covering just off his fingertips. We step aside, tied.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Warner Brothers Pictures The Accountant, in theaters October 14th. And by Verizon. Welcome to Verizon LTE Advanced, the next-gen network.
Getting Todd Gurley an important factor for the Rams today. He's carried it 15 times for 71 yards, as long of 16. He also caught one for 24. The numbers very even, and the score even too. With the 1st and 10, the fake to Gurley, and on the cross, Kendricks, the tight end, blockers ahead. He's got Britt blocking, he's got quick blocking, and he is brought down with the grab by Colton Anderson along with Jerry Hughes. It is a 21-yard catch and run.
You get so consumed with Todd Gurley that you forget the tight end who's working back across the formation. Look at the Bills. They're so concerned. Look, we talked about how important play action can be. And everyone gets focused in on trying to stop Todd Gurley that you lose sight of Lance Kendricks slipping out the back door.
Aaron Williams got him. First and 10. What a great hit on that Wildcat. Big-time hit by Jarrell Worthy, the former Green Bay Packer. High draft pick and cut, losing 4. He was stoned back at the 30.
Yeah, here's Worthy right here. He's just going to work between the center and the guard. He gets lost. He just, all of a sudden, he's supposed to get kicked down and just happens to run into the back for a negative run.
Darius is off suspension but injured a hamstring Friday, inactive today. 2nd and 14. Keenum has hit 8 in a row. Havenstein the block at the right tackle. Oh, it's picked off on the play by Roby Coleman, and there he goes, a block into the house. He played in this stadium at USC. In fact, he set a record for interception touchdowns for the Trojans. And he is reliving his past in the present.
Well, they're trying to throw the out route. Roby Coleman is playing from an off position, and he just jumps this route the entire way. He does a nice job undercutting Pharaoh Cooper, and he takes it back to the house.
He was brought into the NFL by Jeff Fisher in Tennessee. The current Rams coach was the one that spotted him. Now he's a Bill, and a 41-yard interception return for a touchdown has given Buffalo the lead with a Carpenter extra point. It's a 7-point, 23-16 advantage. 3:54. Nickel Roby Coleman. He's already had a fumble return for a touchdown. Here he takes an interception into the end zone. 13 points off 2 Rams turnovers. Saturday, the SEC on CBS has the best game from the best conference as Alabama will visit Knoxville and take on the Volunteers of Tennessee, all starting with college football today at 3 Eastern, right here on CBS. Well, there is Nickel Roby Coleman, who has just returned a Keenum pass, 41 yards for a touchdown, and given the Bills a lead.
Make a great play on defense. Now you go cover a kick. Wife in the NFL.
That's right.
What have you done for me lately?
Again, 13 points off 2 Los Angeles Rams turnovers.
Terrific anticipation. Sat on Case Keenum's throw the whole way.
Rookie wide receiver Michael Thomas is back 3 yards deep. He's out of Southern Miss. He's a 6th-round pick. And he goes right into the hit there of Lorenzo Alexander. The 33-year-old 10-year veteran with a wicked hit. He's made his bones on special teams. And boy, is he playing some terrific defense in the middle for the Buffalo Bills. 20-yard return.
And what did Rex Ryan tell us last night? We brought him in to be a teams player and give us some depth at the linebacker position. He said he performed so well in training camp that he earned a starting job. He's really played well alongside Zach Brown and Preston Brown.
Rich, not saying that you threw a lot of pick sixes, but
what? Who? When?
When you did, what was your mentality?
You have to have
out?
a short memory, Ken. You have to be able to turn the page and move on, and that's going to be the challenge this drive for Case Keenum.
It is a 1st and 10, and this is Todd Gurley. Looks like he tripped more than anything else over Worthy, who was falling down. It's a gain of 2, and he's out to the 18-yard line.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in talking to Case Keenum on Friday. He said he watched a lot of film of Drew Brees. He even went back and read his book. Because there's, you look at Drew Brees, not a tall quarterback. Keenum said if he would have been 2 inches tall, he probably would have had multiple scholarship offers, probably would have been drafted. He's been kind of a classic overachiever, but you look at the numbers, he's pretty good. 14 and 19, just the one mistake. He has to be able to turn the page and move on and take advantage of some of the matchups outside.
With a quick 2nd down and 8, he's got Tavon Austin ushered out of bounds by Stephon Gilmore. He picks up 4. He's at the 22. Keenum is the all-time NCAA touchdown passing leader, but went undrafted. He came out in the draft with Luck RG3, Tannehill, Whedon, Osweiler, Russell Wilson. That was his draft.
He got lost in the mix, and he's had to really fight for every opportunity. Didn't come into the league with a silver spoon in his mouth. And the interesting thing, he earned this job in training camp by outplaying the rookie and first overall pick in the draft, Jared Goff.
Bills in the nickel, 3rd down and 4 for Keenum. Here they come again. Lorenzo Alexander, his 5th sack in 5 games. I'm telling you what, the new additions to the Bills defense have made a difference in this season.
Kevin, this is amazing. They don't even block him. I mean, the right guard, he opens up outside. He gives Lorenzo Alexander a clear path to Case Keenum. Keenum had no chance in that situation.
Lorenzo Alexander had 9 sacks in his first 9 years. He's got 5 in 5 games since he's been a Buffalo Bill. Wow. Here's the punt by Hecker. And deep back is Tate. From the 37, nice tackle downfield. It was a 52-yard punt. Great hang time of 5.18. And the tackle by Troy Hill. Well, TV's Funniest Family is back. Catch the hilarious season premiere of Life in Pieces Thursday, October 27th on CBS. And at halftime today, they were shooting a part of an episode here at the Coliseum. It's Tom Hanks' son. And I will tell you that Rich went down there seeking autographs. And it was embarrassing.
I tried to get a small part.
I know. And they said no. Scram. Here's a pass outside. 1st and 10. Marquise Goodwin makes the grab. Hit by McDonald, whose dad is an assistant coach for the Bills. It is a 7-yard pickup, and he's out to the 44 of Buffalo.
Yeah, good look at T.J. McDonald that played against his father's dad, was a terrific safety, 6-time Pro Bowler. And they talk each week, a couple times a week. Not so much this week as they both compete against one another here at the Coliseum.
Wildcat. No, McCoy in the handoffs out of the pistol and tackled in the secondary by Mark Barron. 13-yard gain, and McCoy is shredding the defense of the LA Rams, 126 on the ground.
Well, he's got terrific vision and cutting ability, and talked about those cutbacks and his ability to reverse field. Terrific screen runner. He's so dangerous in space.
This Bills offense gives you a lot of offensive formations, doesn't it, Rich?
They continue to change up personnel groupings and formations throughout the course of the game.
1st and 10, dumping it off McCoy. Blockers ahead. Wood was there. Incognito was pushing and finally brought down. Hit on the play by Dominic Easley. Gain of 3.
Yeah, he's having a terrific day. Done a nice job following the fullback, Jerome Felton, a Pro Bowler. Talked about his vision, his cutting ability, his straight line speed, his maneuver ability, his ability to finish in the secondary. 13 carries for 126 yards already in this one. He's giving him a blow. They got to keep him fresh for the 4th quarter.
You were thinking the Rams had made the right adjustments coming out of halftime, but maybe the Bills have now adjusted themselves.
Well, they're running the ball at the middle of that St. Louis or the Los Angeles defensive line, Kevin. They're without 3 starters, Quint, Brocker, and Hayes, and they're missing the big man.
3rd quarter has come to a close on CBS. And he's off to the races. There he goes. Oh, it's picked up on the play by Roby Coleman. Yep, Nickel Roby Coleman with the pick 6. 2nd down, 7 for the Bills. Starting the 4th. Gillislee is in. Gets the call and hit by the defensive back Barron on a gain of 2 to the Ram 39. They can't stop the run, Rich.
And they're bringing pressures, they're bringing corner blitzes, they're doing everything they possibly can. What's happening is whether it's LeSean McCoy or even Tyrod Taylor, they're finding that one crease.
Justin Hunter, who caught a touchdown pass, active today for the first time, bottom of his screen, 3rd and 6. Tyrod Taylor. Running out of real estate and time, and the hit and forced out of play by Barron on that 3rd and 6. 4th down.
Well, the Rams strung that one out. Tyrod Taylor held on for as long as he possibly could before he threw it away. There was nowhere to go with the ball down the field. Good job by Jeff Fisher's defense getting off the field on 3rd down.
Going back for LA, number 11, Tavon Austin.
Schmidt will punt for the Buffalo Bills near midfield on almost a windless 85-degree day in Los Angeles. Tavon Austin lets it fly over his head. Oh, what a great placement at about the 6-yard line, and then the scrum after the play. That was a 33-yard well-placed punt. He punted well last week against the Patriots, and Colton Schmidt doing the same thing today here in LA. We need to see if it...
First touch by the kicking team.
Right.
First down.
Replay clearly showed it while Coleman and his crew on it. But boy, Schmidt has had another good punting day for the Bills.
Yeah, clearly this one's touched first. At that point, Tavon Austin can pick it up. It's a dead ball at the spot.
4th consecutive start inside the Los Angeles 20 in this half. You see the double numbers there. USC played here yesterday against Colorado and beat them, I think, didn't they? I think they beat the ranked Buffaloes.
Yeah, you can see some of the marks on the field. You can see the hash marks are different in the college game. And field, I was down on the field before the game came. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. You always worry when you have a college team play and an NFL team in the same stadium. You see the letters there at midfield underneath the NFL shield.
1st and 10. Keenum going outside for Quick, who has been, it's only his 2nd catch today. Brought down by Gilmore, picks up 8, goes to the 15. He had been the number 1 receiver, coming in with 18, and he has been quiet today.
We've had a difficult time getting the ball down the field. Explosive plays in the passing game simply haven't been there this year for the Rams, with the exception of a few instances where they hit some people, like the Bucs, for example, on an early down.
They had 3 touchdowns last 4 games as Quick, 2nd down and 2, and this is Gurley trying to penetrate the left side of his line. It's a gain of a yard with the 16. Raiders and Chargers with James and Boomer in New York.
Hey, Kevin, Rich will appreciate this touch.
Back and forth they go on 4th and 2. Jack Del Rio goes for it. Derek Carr hits Michael Crabtree 20 yards. Raiders go for 2. They convert. They now lead by 3, 27-24 over the Chargers.
104 left in the 3rd. Back to Kevin Harlan.
Yeah, we've seen him go for 2-point conversions in week 1 against the New Orleans Saints. Jack Del Rio has been very aggressive with this Oakland Raider team.
3rd and 1, Gurley. There was a block up front by Jamon Brown, who is taking the place of the injured starting right guard Cody Wickman. Picking up 2. That is enough for up firsts. They get out to the 18-yard line.
Ball came out. He ran into one of his own blockers up front, an offensive lineman. The ball came out. He was able to jump on it. Sometimes it's not the defense. It's that big body in front of you that you're not anticipating coming back towards you.
Bills lead on a pick 6 by Nickel Roby-Coleman, a 41-yard return. They got a touchdown pass to Hunter. Touchdown run by Gillislee. Gurley's had a touchdown run for the LA Rams. 1st and 10. Gurley, they blow it dead.
Delay of the game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
And they're 1 short with the numbers. I mean, you look at these. They've got 8. They've only had 7 to block 8. You're going to be 1 short. That makes it a little bit more difficult for Todd Gurley when you've got a free hitter every time. That has been a problem as you study the tape of this Rams offense. Too often they try and run the football into these heavy 8- and 9-man fronts.
Bills in the nickel. First and 15. Look out from behind. He moves up. Got away. Throws to Quick. Makes the move. Being chased by Zach Brown. And chased down to the 44. What a run by Quick. 31-yard pickup.
What's a terrific effort by Case Keenum. He must have eyes in the back of his head. Look at him step up. He feels shoes coming off. He keeps his eyes down the field, makes an awkward throw. What a terrific effort by Case Keenum to get the job done in the midst of pressure.
Brian Quick was almost let go. Almost didn't make the team. Injuries derailed Pharaoh Smith and Nelson Spruce, 2 young receivers. So that was the only reason, really, they kept Quick. He signed a 1-year prove-it deal. And he is proving it with 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games for the Rams. First and 10.
Wow, delay again.
Delay of the game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
The offensive coordinator for the Rams is Rob Boris. It's the 32nd ranked offense in NFL football.
He's right there in the middle with the beard. Good conversation with him on Friday. Took over the play calling duties late last season.
First and 15. Malcolm Brown. He's got room to roam. He gets by Zach Brown. He's pulled down from behind after a great catch and run to the 35 of the Buffalo Bills. 26-yard catch and run. Preston Brown brings him down.
Yeah, nice job with the screen. He's going to bluff the end man on the line of scrimmage. And then watch him just settle in there behind his offensive line. This is a good effort and a good finish by Malcolm Brown.
And twice in a row, Rich, the Rams overcome first and 15. Player down. And that is the defensive back, Aaron Williams. Missed last season with the neck injury, most of it. We step aside. Aaron Williams walking off under his own power. He's really had a solid season so far. Robert Blanton, who has played the last 4 years with the Vikings, is now taking his place. He is one of 4 defensive backs. First and 10 after the catch and run of Brown at 26. Keenum, crumbling pocket, running for his life. And they're looking for Tavon Austin. The coverage by Stephon Gilmore, and a flag is down at the 22.
Holding, number 24, defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic
Gilmore.
first down.
With Stephon Gilmore having his hands full, trying to cover Tavon Austin. Had a great conversation with Stephon Gilmore last night. I said, Kevin, that's what a professional defensive back, cornerback looks like. He's got the size that you love, the long arms, change of direction ability, but Tavon Austin has caused the taller corner some problems in this one.
First and 10. Gurley. And stuffed by Preston Brown. No gain on the plate. This defense is good for the Bills. Down to the sideline, and Scott Kaplan.
Kevin, injury update from the Buffalo sideline. Bills safety Aaron Williams out right now with his shoulder. His return is questionable. They brought him off the field, took off his helmet. By the way, they exposed that he's got a Buffalo Bills logo shaved into the left side of his head. Still doesn't have his helmet back on. He's been working with the team doctors. Return is questionable.
That's called commitment. When you shave the logo of your team on the side of your head, you've bought in. I love that. I love that about Aaron Williams.
Second down, 9. Found a little gap in there, and they get it off to the tight end, who's down to the 18-yard line. Make it Britt with the catch. And it's a gain of 10, hit by Blanton and Darby at the Bills' 18.
And this is where I think that the Rams have to take advantage of their size. Kenny Britt's a taller receiver. You've got Brian Quick. He's is where they have to start throwing some fade routes against all the man-to-man coverage they're seeing from this Buffalo defense.
5 in the secondary now for the Bills, and you did see Aaron Williams back in there. Handoff, Austin. Lead block by Higbee, the tight end. And then Gilmore forces him out of bounds inside the 11 of the Bills. That's a gain of 9. Quick had a catch and run of 31. Brown had one at 26. Britt caught one moments ago for 18. That was a end around, or that jet sweep, and it goes to Tavon with a gain of 9.
Just another way to get the ball in the hands of your playmaker, Tavon Austin. Can do it all.
2nd and 1. Gurley. And devoured as he takes it in, but gets the first down, and a gain of 2 on 2nd and 1. Put him at the 7-yard line of the Buffalo Bills. 1st and goal. Preston Brown the hit.
The jumbo personnel in there. You've got 3 tight ends. Got those big bodies in there trying to open up some holes for Todd Gurley.
Rams were down 13-6, came back to tie at 13. They were down 16-13, came by to tie at 16. 1st and goal at the 8, trying to tie it up again. First and goal at the 8. Gurley out of bounds. Alexander. Flag is thrown. What if Saffold picked up that yellow as he was trying to deal with Kyle Williams, a tough chore.
Holding, number 76, offense. The penalties decline. 2nd down.
It was Saffold. He was working on Williams. It's 2nd and goal.
Saffold has his hands full. He's going to be working on Kyle Williams. Just lined up right across from him, and you see the move inside. He just grabs and pulls down the jersey of Kyle Williams. An umpire right behind him. Talked to a defensive line coach at practice on Friday, Mike Waffle. He said he thinks there's more holding going on inside because the umpire no longer behind the defensive line, he's behind the offensive line. He doesn't see some of that holding that goes on between the center and the 2 guards.
It makes sense. 2nd goal at the 13. Batted down. Coming through Adolphus Washington. He has emerged today, the high draft pick out of Ohio State. A Sporting News All-America first team right in his grill.
Reads it out nicely, and then he's knows he can't get the sack, so he does the next best thing. He gets those big arms up in the throwing lane of Case Keenum.
They're going to go for it, Rich. I mean, if they get a 4th down, that'll be interesting. 3rd and goal at the 13 to go. Keenum. He's got Gurley at the 5. And holding on for dear life with Stephon Gilmore. Gain of 9. 4th down. Now, do you go for the field goal, or do you try to go in?
With 6:26 and based on the flow and the way the game's going, I think you kick the field goal in this situation. If it was inside 2 minutes, then maybe, obviously, your thoughts would be different. But with this much time in the game and the way your defense has played here late in the game, I think this is the right thing to do.
Zerline with a 22-yard field goal try. Bring him ever closer. Holding is Eckert. And it's 23-19, 5:51 to go from Los Angeles on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Pepsi. Every football moment deserves a celebration. Break out the Pepsi. Ford F-Series, the official truck of the NFL. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
Three red zone field goals in 4 red zone possessions by the Rams. Just got the 22-yard field goal by Zerline. So the difference now has been the Roby Coleman interception return of 41 yards for a touchdown. Ensuing kickoff. Brandon Tate looking up into that Southern California sky. Into a knee to the 25 on the touchback. 5:51 to go in the fourth. Bills have it. Thursday, your weekend starts here when the Denver Broncos take on the Chargers. Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network.
Broncos having to play with Paxton Lynch today. He makes his first start for the injured Trevor Siemian against the Raiders.
Pistol. 1st and 10. McCoy. Mills a block. And they get him down with a barren tackle after a gain of 4 to the 29.
Rams fakes the stop on number 25 of the Bills, LeSean McCoy. Ball spotted at the 29-yard line. 6 yards to go, second down.
Second down and 6. Taylor keeps it himself. And he was tripped up by Ethan Westbrooks after a 3-yard gain. Josh Forrest chasing him as well out to the 31-yard line, and the player is down. Maybe Tremaine. It is Tremaine Johnson.
The Rams ready for that last one. They brought pressure off of both edges. Tremaine Johnson, he blitzed off the right side. Safety came off the other side. He got rolled up on at the end of that one.
The Bills, as they work on Tremaine Johnson, the Bills have converted, Rich, only one of their last 7 third down situations. Third down in the first half, terrific. Third down last week at Foxborough, very good. Third down second half here has been a struggle.
Yeah, it's been really, if you look at the numbers on the season, just around a 33%. You see him right here. He's going to get rolled up on. See the kick out block, and then right at the end, that right leg goes down awkwardly.
And he is their number 1 defensive back. Had a career year last year, Tremaine Johnson did. In fact, so good after the 7 interceptions, which was top 3 in the league, they put the franchise tag on him. That does not look good.
Well, you study the tape all week and you look at the plays that he makes, and then you visit with the Buffalo Bills coaching staff. You talk to Tyrod Taylor, and you say, what do you have to be aware of in the secondary? And they said, at all costs, we have to avoid Tremaine Johnson. He is their best cover corner. And now with him out of the game, you have to wonder if they'll go after the replacement. As a play caller, Kevin, that's usually the thought. Let's check and see where this guy's at.
That's Troy Hill, number 32 in the secondary. He did start against Arizona last week. 3rd and 3.
You got E.J. Gaines up the top, Troy Hill down the bottom. You got to test him and find out about him early. And look at all the men up around the line of scrimmage. Here comes some pressure.
Taylor, McCoy a block and broken up beautifully on the play by E.J. Gaines. They were going for the first time today to Walter Powell. They got a punt. Punting in, it will come out there.
A terrific play by E.J. Gaines. Breaking up the intended throw to Walter Powell. Just great anticipation on the inside slant move.
Well, they don't have to punt, but it is 4th and 3, and that would be advisable, huh? The way this guy can return it is always a concern, but the way Schmidt has punted, he's had one of his best days.
Another good one.
Oh, my goodness. A rocket. And that is inside the 20. And out of bounds at the 17 of the Rams. Make it the 18. Keenum will take over. 4:35 to play in the fourth.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by New York Life. With the right guidance, everyone can be good at life. And by Subway. Try the new thick-cut autumn carved turkey sandwich.
Golden Schmidt, the Buffalo punter, is at 4 inside the 20 today. That is not a good sign. Tremaine Johnson heading to the locker room. Rams 3 timeouts, down by 4. 1st and 10.
Keenum has hit 14 of his last 15. The only miss was the pick 6.
By Roby Coleman. That's Gurley. Chased and brought down by Lorenzo Alexander. The gain is 2 to the 21.
And these are the situations you live for as a quarterback, that have the ability to bring your team from behind late. Was able to do it last week. For that opportunity again here, plenty of time. 4:30. They've got all 3 timeouts. Chance to go the length of the field.
Roby Coleman is in as the 5th defensive back for the Bills. 2nd and 7. Gurley. He was swung up behind the line by Jerry Hughes. Then Kyle Williams around his ankles. It is a gain of 2. He's out to the Ram 23.
And too often, Kevin, as you watch the film, they don't block the end man on the line of scrimmage. They turn him loose. And that makes it so difficult. Look at Hughes. He's got a clear run, clear lane to Gurley, who's offset in the eye. You got to take care of the end man on the line of scrimmage in the running game.
In with a 3rd down and 5. And that was a floater. They were looking for Kendricks. The coverage by Gilmore and by Roby Coleman. He had Nickel Roby Coleman had the pick 6 earlier, which is the difference in the game.
Well, go ahead and run it. Look, watch Quick at the top of your screen on the in route. And look how wide open he is. Stop it. You know, it's easy for me to sit up here and on 3rd and 5 and say, why didn't you throw it to Quick? I don't know what the progression was there, but it looked to me like he had a real opportunity to fit one in there to Brian Quick.
Hecker leads the NFL in net gross and punts inside the 20, and it's a fake, as you can see, and it was taken by Bradley Marquez. And the hit by Ronald Darby. And at the 25-yard line, Buffalo takes over on 4th and 5. They get 2. And Marquez cannot get it.
Well,
he's the personal protector.
They're trying to get your attention with the motion away. They snap the ball directly to Marquez. Jeff Fisher told us on Friday that they had a couple up their sleeve, a couple fakes. They always have a couple fakes up and ready, but boy, in that situation, with the way your defense has played, man, that one backfired.
LA 3 timeouts, Buffalo 2.
Who's the mic? Who's the mic? Who's the mic? We need to know. 52.
Tyrod Taylor, 1st and 10, LeSean McCoy. The hesitation, the burst. They chase him, he's down to the 2. Make it the 1 on a 24-yard slippery move. E.J. Gaines brings him down. 154 on the ground for McCoy.
Well, the linebacker runs, Josh Forrest runs right by LeSean McCoy in the hole. It's like 2 ships passing in the night. And again, they've not had an answer for LeSean McCoy, who's having a terrific day against this Rams defense. 154 yards already on 15 carries.
He's been devastating. 1st and goal at the 1. McCoy following Felton and back to the line. Ogletree and others there with the stop.
Well, they have to hold them to a field goal to make it a 1-score game. It's really their only chance here. Got to come up with a goal line stand and hold the Bills to a field goal.
Rams just took a timeout. They got 2 left. The Buffalo Bills began the season 0-2. They've won 2 straight against 2 of the final 4 from last year. They beat Arizona and they beat New England on a shutout last week to get to 2-2. They've led most of today, and here's how it's gone with a Taylor to Gillislee pitch and a 5-yard touchdown run. They got Gurley on a 1-yard touchdown run, and then the pick 6 right here by the terrific Nickel Roby Coleman. And then the fake punt moments ago on 4th and 5. Unit was out there, stopped short. Big tackle was made there by Ronald Darby. 2nd and goal at the 1. Rams have won 3 straight.
Look at all the big bodies, Kevin, on the left side of the line of scrimmage.
Gillislee in and stuffed. Flags on the 2nd and goal at the 1. like Aaron Donald got a hold of him.
We haven't called his name enough, but look how sudden he is off the ball and up the field.
Illegal formation on the offense. Number 77 is on the end of the line. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
They do shift a lot. They do give you a lot of looks.
You just watch Aaron Donald right in the middle of your screen. He's working on Richie Incognito in the center. He just splits him. Talked about his suddenness off the ball, his ability to get up the field. He works hard every play from snap to whistle.
Rams have struggled in the red zone. That's why they trail right now. Couple turnovers and 10 points off those turnovers. Second and goal at the 6. Taylor. And caught for the touchdown. Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin. His second touchdown reception of the season.
Where Tyrod Taylor held the ball to the very last second. And TJ McDonald just hesitates just enough to allow Tyrod Taylor to fit this one in. He was anticipating Taylor pulling the ball down and running, and it gave him just enough time to fit that one into Goodwin. That's an outstanding play by Tyrod Taylor. Sitting there in there and trusting the protection.
So Tyrod Taylor with a touchdown pass in the opening drive to Hunter. And a touchdown pass right there to Goodwin of 6 yards. And the Buffalo Bills have more than a pulse after beginning 0-2 and a lot of rumbling and a fired offensive coordinator. And they've come back from 0-2 and now with 2.5 here, have at least a 10-point, maybe an 11-point lead as Carpenter will try to tack on one more and does to make it 30-19 the Bills.
Well, you know the first question that Jeff Fisher's going to be asked at the podium at the press conference, why did you decide to try the fake punt in that situation? Buffalo did a terrific job not going for the bait. They did a really nice job hanging out on the backside, waiting for Bradley Marquez.
And the Rams with a tie in first place with Seattle coming into today. We're throttled in Santa Clara to the San Francisco 49ers on that Monday, won 3 straight and did it with defense. But this afternoon, the Bills have had one big defensive play, the pick 6 by Nickel Roby-Coleman. The failed 4th and 5 with alert special teams by Rex Ryan's group, and the subsequent touchdown pass moments ago to Goodwin.
Yeah, I don't think Aaron Donald, Kevin, has been as effective today. We haven't called his name out a bunch. We certainly did on the last goal line stand, but without Robert Quinn, Michael Brockers, and William Hayes, 3 starters along the defensive line, it allowed Buffalo to do some things differently to handle Aaron Donald. And they didn't have the big men up front. That's a big reason why, in my opinion, Buffalo had so much success running the football between the tackles.
Here's the Carpenter kickoff for the Buffalo Bills. And this will be taken by Michael Thomas. Rookie out of Southern Miss, only playing special teams, returns a 21 up to the 29. So the Rams with the red zone struggles today for Case Keenum. 4 possessions, getting the single touchdown, but the 3 field goals, and that has been part of this story here in Los Angeles today.
Well, the Rams need to strike quick. They can't afford to dink and dunk the ball down the field with 2:30 left. Trailing by 11. Case Keenum has to be aggressive and take some shots down the field. And that's going to be tough. You see how deep this secondary is. They're going to play a lot of 2-deep coverage and just rush 3 and 4 men.
Keenum with the 1st and 10. And that was almost picked up. They're going for Higbee, the tight end. And the guy that just had it was Nickel Roby-Coleman, who had the pick 6 earlier for 41 and a touchdown.
And he's kicking himself. He knows he almost had another one. He was in a position to make the play.
Roby Coleman, as we told our original audience and welcome the new audience, played in this building in college at USC. He was drafted by Jeff Fisher with the Tennessee Titans. 2nd down and 10. Case Keenum over the head of Britt with the coverage on the play by Stephon Gilmore. Well, Rich, the calendar has just moved to October, and the first month is in back of these teams now. They've faced the quarter pole and gone by it. And the Bills, one of the major stories, I think, right now in the AFC.
And I think it's how they're playing defense, coupled with the way they're running the football offensively, not just with LeSean McCoy, but also Tyrod Taylor. Kind of a two-headed monster back there, and some of them are off the scramble with Taylor.
It's a 3rd and 10, and Keenum will go down. And with it for his 2nd sack today, Lorenzo Alexander. He's one of the top sackers so far in the AFC. His 2nd today, 6 sacks in 5 games. He had 9 his first 9 years in the league. But he devours Keenum right here. The 4th sack by the Bills, who have a lead in Los Angeles and are looking for their 3rd consecutive win. Tonight on CBS begins with 60 Minutes and amazing advances in artificial intelligence and how it will affect you. Followed by CBS News coverage of the 2nd presidential debate. Tonight, only CBS. 4th and 18. They need the 34. 5 in the secondary for the Bills. They've also got their very fleet-footed Zach Brown, linebacker, in coverage. Keenum.
Got to throw it on
time. Here comes Alexander. Tosses it away. And it looks like Roby Coleman has picked it off again. His 2nd today, which seals the Buffalo Bills. And a win in Los Angeles. 2 interceptions by Nickel Roby Coleman. A pick 6. And that one right there on 4th and 18. And another Rams turnover. 3 of them. 2 picks by Roby Coleman, who plied his trade in college in this building.
They're just getting the 4-man rush, but it's been relentless. You see Kyle Williams come around. He forces him out of the pocket, and Keenum knows he has to get rid of it. He just throws it up, and Roby Coleman is able to beat Tavon Austin across his face.
Alexander with pressure, too. Here comes a Donald tackle on the running back, LeSean McCoy, throwing him for a loss of 1. What a big day the running back for the Bills has had. On the ground, 153. He has been invaluable. By the way, I'd like to remind you, after we conclude things here at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, we'll take you to Oakland, where the Raiders are playing the Chargers. Boy, San Diego in another close
How about that
game.
shootout?
Amazing.
Boy, the Chargers have had a difficult time, Kevin, late in games. They've lost a lot of games in the 4th quarter. Haven't been able to close teams out.
2nd down 11. 2 timeouts apiece. Tyrod Taylor to LeSean McCoy. And stopped there by Matt Longacre with a loss of 3. Back to the 19. Clock continues to tick. How about the Buffalo Bills? Lost their first 2 games in a 5-day stretch. They fired offensive coordinator Greg Roman. They lost their best offensive player at that time, receiver Sammy Watkins, to injury. And they've come back and they beat Arizona and New England, 2 teams in the Final Four a year ago. Come across the country to LA, take on a team in the Rams that had won 3 straight, playing well. And they're going to beat them here at home.
And just when we visited with them last night, Kevin, you could just tell this organization has a lot of confidence, especially with the way they're playing defensively. 5 turnovers, 5 takeaways against Arizona. They shut out the Patriots, and they played really well here today with the sacks and the takeaways. When you do that, you create scoring opportunities for Tyrod Taylor in this offense. It's tough to lose.
Bills defense, 3 takeaways and 4 sacks tonight on CBS. 60 Minutes, followed by the 2nd presidential debate. For Rich Gannon and Scott Kaplan on the sideline, Kevin Harlan so long from the Coliseum in Los Angeles, where the Bills have won their 3rd consecutive game, as we now take you to our CBS studios and James Brown.